4 machines, 1 operator, no video feed. Iran, 1986. And this is where every drone you've heard about since actually begins. In 1985, Iran had been at war for 5 years and had nothing in the air that didn't risk a pilot's life. The arms embargo was total. So a newly founded company called CODS Aviation got a simple, impossible assignment. Build something that can see over enemy lines without getting anyone killed, using whatever components you can actually obtain. The result was the Mohajer-1. Calling it primitive is being generous. The nose held a single film camera, not video, film. After every mission, crews landed the drone, pulled the canister, developed the photographs, and only then could commanders see what was over the ridge. No live feed, no real-time anything. The operator tracked the machine by eye. If it drifted past the visual horizon, it was gone. By 1986, 4 of these were flying combat missions over Iraqi positions during Operation Dawn 8. By the war's end, 619 sorties, over 53,000 photographs. Not bad for a flying film roll, but the ceiling was obvious from the first flight. While CODS Aviation was building eyes, a separate team at Iran Electronics Industries was working on something with no intention of coming back. Their drone, the Ababil-1, carried 40 kilograms of explosive and a one-way ticket to the target. Iran, in 1986, was simultaneously developing a reconnaissance drone and a kamikaze drone, not because it had resources for both, but because it couldn't choose which problem mattered more. Production was tiny, the design so thinly documented it barely appears in open sources even today. But the logic was planted. A drone that doesn't need to land is cheaper and simpler to build than one that does. That idea would take 3 decades to fully mature. Neither machine had solved the real constraint: range. Both were tethered to the operator's line of sight. Both consumed scarce components with every mission. So, through the late 80s and into the 90s, CODS Aviation quietly worked on something more capable. The Mohajer-2 emerged publicly in 1996, with an autopilot, the first in any Iranian drone. It could fly beyond visual range without going dark. Over 200 were eventually built, a figure that sounds modest until you account for the fact that every component had to be sourced through sanctions, era gray markets, or fabricated from scratch. By the 2000s, Mohajer-2 had crossed into Lebanon with Hezbollah and appeared in Syria, the first Iranian drone to function as an exportable weapon for proxy forces. Data was still delayed, range was still limited, but for the first time, the platform had crossed a border. 3 machines, roughly 1 decade, one conclusion that stuck: a cheap airframe in the sky is worth more than it costs. The entire program that followed was built on that single observation. The ceasefire of 1988 didn't stop the program. It gave it room to think. 2 manufacturers, 2 different instincts about what a drone should do, and a decade of peace to turn field improvisation into something that could actually scale. HISA's answer was the Ababil-2. Not a single design, but a family built on one common airframe with 3 different purposes. The Ababil-B was made to be shot down, equipped with acoustic miss indicators, infrared beacons, and radar reflectors. It served as a live aerial target for Iranian air defense crews training against something that actually flew at realistic speeds. The Ababil-S swapped all of that for electro-optical sensors and became a reconnaissance platform. The Ababil-T put the warhead back in and revived the one-way logic of the original Ababil-1, except now on a more mature, better documented airframe. 1 production line, 3 operational roles. That wasn't elegant engineering. It was the math of sanctions. You don't build 3 separate platforms when you can barely sustain one. The Ababil-T eventually left Iran entirely, rebadged as Mirsad-1 with Hezbollah and Qasef-1 with the Houthis in Yemen, where it hit Saudi infrastructure years later. The same airframe that trained Iranian air defense gunners was attacking oil facilities on the Arabian Peninsula. CODS Aviation went in the opposite direction: heavier, farther, more capable. The Mohajer-4 nearly doubled the takeoff weight of anything the line had produced before, reached 150 kilometers out, and stayed airborne for up to 7 hours. Crucially, it required 2 operators, one flying the aircraft, one steering the camera and keeping the antenna aligned for live video downlink. Real-time imagery, finally. The Iranian Navy's IRGC component received it first, using it to watch foreign shipping in the Persian Gulf. The navigation software was Flight Map, American, commercial, acquired through channels nobody officially acknowledged. Iran's military drone patrolling the Gulf ran on software from a country whose warships it was monitoring. A Babel 3 came out of a specific gap exposed in Syria and Lebanon. The earlier platforms were blind after dark. HISA announced night-capable sensors in 2014, armed variants followed by 2020. Syrian government forces used it to direct Krasnopol precision rounds onto opposition positions. An Iranian drone as the targeting link between Syrian artillery and Russian ammunition. Syria also became the first country to produce it under license. A drone built in Tehran, manufactured in Damascus, firing coordinates for Moscow-supplied shells. Then, in 2012, Iran got something it couldn't have designed. A captured American Scan Eagle, Boeing's compact maritime surveillance drone, recovered from Persian Gulf operations. IEI's engineers didn't just copy it, they grafted a dual-tail boom borrowed from the RQ-7 Shadow onto the same basic layout, preserved the original Skyhook arrested landing system, and called the first version Sayeh. The refined platform became the Yasir, handed to the Army and Navy for Gulf patrol missions. The same stretch of water Scan Eagle had monitored for the U.S. Navy was now being watched by Iran's version of itself. By the early 2000s, Iran had reconnaissance drones, proxy drones, and one reverse-engineered American platform. What it didn't have was speed, or the ability to strike a target with guided munitions and watch it burn from the same aircraft. Both problems were about to be addressed in very different ways. In August 2010, President Ahmadinejad stood at a ceremony and called the Qarar a messenger of death for Iran's enemies. The name was theatrical, but the machine was real. Iran's first jet-powered drone, a compact delta-wing design powered by a turbojet, capable of reaching 900 kilometers per hour. Two configurations. One carrying 227-kilogram bombs against ground targets, one carrying anti-ship missiles aimed specifically at naval formations in the Gulf. At low altitude and high speed, a Qarar approaching a carrier strike group compresses the response window for ship-based air defense to seconds. Iranian doctrine at the time was actively developing saturation attack concepts against American naval assets, and a fast, cheap, expendable jet drone fits that logic precisely. The same airframe doubled as a high-speed aerial target for Iranian air defense training, realistic enough to actually stress the radar operators. The problem was the engine. Turbojets don't get smuggled easily, and no confirmed series production of Qarar in meaningful numbers ever surfaced in open sources. The ambition was documented, the industrial capacity to sustain it, less so. While IAIO was chasing speed, HESA was building endurance. The Shahed 123 isn't famous. It was never meant to be. Analysts at IISS directly link its design to Israel's Hermes 200, though how Iran studied that airframe in enough detail to replicate its pusher-propeller layout remains officially unexplained. The Shahed 123 never appeared in combat, never got handed to a proxy, never featured prominently at a military parade. It existed to teach the factory how to build what came next. Pusher configuration means the engine sits behind the wing and drives a rear-facing propeller, aerodynamically cleaner for sensor placement, more demanding to balance and heat manage. For HISA, which had never built a platform in this category, the Shahed 123 was the tuition fee for the program that followed. That program was the Shahed 129, unveiled in September 2012, and it changed the terms of the entire conversation. 16-meter wingspan, 24 hours of endurance, ceiling of 24,000 feet, 4 SATD-1 guided missiles on the hard points. This was Iran's first confirmed male-class drone. Medium altitude, long endurance. And the visual resemblance to the American MQ-1 Predator was not accidental. In Syria, Shahed 129 became the first Iranian drone confirmed to have struck targets with guided munitions in a live conflict. Iranian EIRGC crews operated it directly, not through proxies. In August 2016, Israeli Air Force fighters shot one down over the Golan Heights, the first confirmed combat loss of an Iranian male drone, and proof that 24,000 feet and a slow cruise speed is a straightforward intercept for a modern fighter. 4 missiles is also a short magazine against defended targets. The vulnerabilities were real, but so was the capability. For the first time, one Iranian airframe could find a target, identify it, and destroy it, without a pilot, without a runway, and without asking anyone's permission to cross a border. In November 2013, IAIO rolled out the largest Iranian drone anyone had seen. The Fotros had a 17-meter wingspan, a claimed endurance of up to 30 hours, guided missiles on the hardpoints, and a prominent satellite communications dome on its spine, the unmistakable signal that this platform was designed to operate far beyond line-of-sight radio range. On paper, it outclassed Shahed 129 on every meaningful dimension. Iranian officials called it a platform capable of striking targets 2,000 kilometers away. Then, nothing. No confirmed combat deployment in Syria, no appearance over Yemen, no documented proxy transfer. Every other Iranian male drone that reached series production found a war within 2 years. Fotros found a hangar. The satellite terminal that looks so impressive at the unveiling is precisely the component where sanctions hit hardest. Encryption hardware, wideband uplink systems, radiation-hardened processors. You can build the airframe. Building the data link that makes a 30-hour SATCOM mission actually work in a contested environment is a different industrial problem entirely. Fotros is the clearest example in the entire Iranian program of the gap between what a defense ministry can present and what a sanctioned manufacturing base can reliably sustain. December 2011 produced something more consequential than any Iranian design bureau could have ordered. NRQ-170 Sentinel, Lockheed Martin's flying wing stealth reconnaissance drone, came down largely intact on Iranian soil. The Sentinel had no fuselage, no tail, no conventional control surfaces, just a smooth, bat-shaped wing designed to absorb and scatter radar returns. Iranian engineers had never built anything like it. They studied it carefully, and then they built 3 things at once. Psyche 2 came first in 2016, a smaller flying wing with a top-mounted intake slot lifted directly from the Sentinel's geometry, designed for low observable reconnaissance. Shahed 171 Simorgh followed in 2018, scaled up and fitted with underwing hardpoints, the stealth layout now carrying weapons. Then Shahed 191, more refined, faster, with the stealth shaping pushed further and confirmed sightings in both Syria and Yemen. 3 iterations from one captured airframe, each one expanding what the concept could do. The flying wing is aerodynamically unstable without active flight control. It wants to tumble. That Iran got 3 successive variants airborne and operational says something about how much engineering knowledge a single well-preserved trophy can unlock. Where Fotros overreached and the flying wing family served a specialized niche, Quds Aviation delivered the program's first truly versatile mass production success of the decade, the Mohajer 6. Smaller than Shahed 129, lighter, simpler to operate, but fitted with a turret carrying electro-optical and infrared sensors and hardpoints for 2 Qiem laser-guided bombs. One operator can find a target, track it, and engage it. The platform is transportable, quick to deploy, and doesn't require the infrastructure of a full air base. Armenian forces encountered it in the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh War. Ukrainian forces encountered it after 2022. Mohajer 6 became the Iranian drone most likely to appear wherever the IRGC or its clients needed a reliable, affordable strike option with same-day results. Not because it was the most capable platform Iran had built, but because it was the one the industrial base could actually produce in numbers and keep flying. The Mohajer 6 proved that Iran could build a reliable tactical striker in volume. The next question was range. Not the kind measured in hundreds of kilometers over a known battlefield, the kind that reaches a naval base, a port, an airfield, somewhere the enemy considered safely distant. By the late 2000s, the program split along two tracks running simultaneously, one toward mass-producible one-way munitions, the other toward long-range multi-role platforms that could actually survive the mission and come back. The Kion and its larger sibling, the Arash, represent the first track taken seriously as a strategic tool rather than a tactical expedient. Both are loitering munitions. They launch, they search, they dive. The Arash 2 scaled the concept up considerably. A larger airframe, a heavier warhead, and a range figure that puts targets well outside Iran's immediate neighborhood within reach. Where earlier one-way platforms like the Ababil T were tactical weapons for frontline use, the Arash family is explicitly designed for deep strikes against hardened or high-value infrastructure. The one-way logic that IEI first drew up in 1986 had taken 30 years to reach operational maturity, and it was only getting started. IAIO's contribution to this phase came in two steps. The Cayman 12 appeared around 2020, a twin-boom turboprop striker with a claimed range of 1,000 kilometers, carrying guided munitions on underwing pylons. Clean lines, optical targeting. The kind of platform that can loiter over a target area and wait for the right moment. 2 years later, Cayman 22 extended the same concept dramatically. A larger jet-powered aircraft with a claimed operational radius pushing toward 3,000 kilometers and a payload capacity that begins to overlap with light strike aircraft. Whether those range figures hold up under real operational conditions is a separate question. And the program's history of ambitious specifications deserves some skepticism. But the trajectory is unambiguous. IAIO moved from building a captured airframe derivative in 2016 to claiming intercontinental adjacent reach in 2022 within a single development cycle. HISA's Ababil 5 closed the loop on the oldest name in the program, the platform that began as a marginally documented experimental warhead in 1986 returned as a genuine male-class surveillance and strike system. Longer endurance, heavier payload, proper sensor suite. The lineage is more symbolic than technical at this point. Almost nothing in the Ababil 5 traces back to the original airframe, but the name carried weight inside the program, and HISA kept it deliberately. 4 decades, 5 generations, the same logic underneath. Find it, fix it, finish it, just with increasingly fewer limitations on how far away the target is allowed to be. CODS. Aviation's final answer to the range problem has a name that the program had been building toward for 40 years. The Mohair 10, unveiled in 2022, carries a satellite communication suite, a multi-sensor turret, guided munitions on 4 hardpoints, and a claimed operational radius of 2,000 kilometers. It is everything the Fotros was announced as in 2013 and failed to deliver. Except this time, there is documented evidence of deployment, not just a ceremony. The lesson from Fotros was apparently absorbed. Don't present a platform until the data link actually works. Mohair 10 represents CODS aviation reaching the ceiling of what the male concept can offer within the program's industrial constraints. Long range, real sensors, real weapons, satellite connected. The line that started with a film camera and 4 hand-assembled airframes in 1985 ends here, at a platform that can find and strike a target the operator will never see with the naked eye. Shahed 149 Gaza sits at the other end of the size spectrum, upward, unveiled in 2023 and named with unmistakable political intent. It is Iran's largest drone to date, a heavy mail platform with a payload capacity that begins to approximate light bombers, designed for long-duration strike and surveillance missions. The name is messaging as much as designation. The timing of its reveal was not incidental. Then there is the family that made every other platform in this video seem like prologue. The Shahed 136 is a delta-wing loitering munition with a warhead in the nose, a piston engine in the tail, and a unit costs somewhere between $20,000 and $50,000. It navigates via GPS waypoints, requires no operator after launch, and is designed to be built by the hundreds on a production line that any moderately equipped machine shop can approximate. Russia began using it against Ukraine in the autumn of 2022 under the designation Uranium-2, and within months the world had learned its distinctive lawnmower engine note. Air defense networks that cost hundreds of millions of dollars were being forced to expend missiles worth 10 times the incoming target just to keep the lights on. The logic IEI sketched in 1986, a drone that doesn't return is cheaper than one that does, had finally found its industrial form. The family around it fills out the concept across different weight classes. Shad 131 is smaller and faster, suited for tighter targets. Shad 101 and Shad 107 compress the same one-way logic into even more compact airframes for tactical use. Shad 238 replaces the piston engine with a small turbojet, pushing speed into a range that significantly shortens intercept time for defending systems. The same problem Karar tried to solve in 2010, now solved on an airframe that costs a fraction of the price and can be built in volume. The through line of the entire program is visible from here. Sanctions didn't slow Iranian drone development, they shaped it. Every embargo became a design constraint. Every missing component a reason to find a cheaper solution. Every captured foreign drone a semester of engineering school. The doctrine that emerged, overwhelm by volume, accept attrition, keep the unit cost below the cost of the interceptor, wasn't chosen from a menu of strategic options. It was the only doctrine a sanctioned industrial base could actually afford to execute. 40 years, 20 platforms, one conclusion. If you can't buy what your enemy has, build something he doesn't know how to stop.